recognize myself. And for a freshman, that's unusual, being recognized. So, but first, Bishop, to you and Mr. Dizolele, as a person who has been watching this, I want to tell you personally that for myself, many people that I know, we are praying for you and your citizenry. Our hearts go out to you as a fellow believer. I know the work that the church does, and I commend you for that and for being here. And I just wanted to first convey that. I've also asked that we put up a map of the country. It's a bit of a unknown for many in the Western world, exactly where it is and where it lies. And I was hoping that Mr. Dizolele and Dr. C or Say, I believe it's C, correct? C. If you could maybe talk a little bit about where those conflicts are, and then Dr. C, I'd like you to expand on that a little bit about what the conflict origination is. We're hearing from the bishop that he believes that all roads lead to the mines, or those roads of violence lead to the mines, I believe was sort of the phrase that he was talking about. And we can maybe explore a little bit about the differences on that. So if you could maybe point out where part of the world we're talking about.
Thank you, sir, Congressman, for your prayer for the Congolese and for this opportunity. So we see to the left, to the right there, above the big lake, Tanganyika Lake, where it says Bujumbura and Bukavu. And then just above that, where it says Nirangongo, that's the area we're talking about, where it says Lake Albert. So it's just that section that we're talking about. And
the Mount Stanley area and that area up there?
That's area there, sir.
Yeah.
But the challenge is that the conflict in that area is fed by what is not happening in the rest of the country. You know, I think it's very dangerous for us to talk about the Kivus in isolation. This is not an independent, sovereign nation. This is a collection of 3 provinces that are paying the price of lack of leadership in Kinshasa, to the west, to the capital. So putting a Band-Aid on the problem in Bukavu is not going to lead us to peace. I'm afraid to say so. It might allow for a temporary relief of sorts, but it's just not sustainable. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Congressman.
And if we could very quickly, because I do want to hear from the bishop as well, and then I actually want to get to my real question, so quickly.
Sure. So I think it's important to understand the militarized mineral trade is a symptom rather than a cause, rather than the disease itself. So it is definitely something that fuels some of the conflict. It's definitely a problem, and I don't want to give the impression that it shouldn't be cleaned up. I just don't think 1502 is the way to do it. But the real issue underlying conflict in this part of the country is land rights and citizenship rights. The question of who gets to be Congolese and who has the right to own land. In the area, you know, the North Kivu area that Mr. Dizolele was describing, this is some of the most fertile agricultural land in the world. It produces 3 harvests per year, and it is hotly contested because it is so valuable and has been. And it's really important to note these conflicts have been going on since before the DRC war started and before there was high demand for Congolese minerals. But it is not homogeneous. The armed groups are different. They're not all fighting over minerals. They don't depend on minerals to the same extent. It's really complex.
So this isn't just the LRA that we may be seeing in the media. This is
they're not even
local,
in the mineral areas.
Yes, this is local and
you also have significant mining areas where there is no conflict, like the Kasais and Katanga.
Bishop, real quickly, if you would maybe respond to that.
L'Église vit partout avec la population.
The church lives everywhere where the population lives as well.
Nous avons constaté que la plus grande cause de l'instabilité est d'origine économique.
We have come to realize that the largest, the most important part of the instability are the economic reasons.
Les rivalités ethniques sont instrumentalisées pour le pillage systématique des ressources.
The ethnic rivalries are manipulated or used as instruments for this conflict.
Pour les évêques du Congo, la régulation internationale et national de l'exploitation progressivement peut régler le problème.
The church believes that the international and national regulations, if it's done gradually over time, will solve these problems.
Et j'ai mentionné que le Congo lui-même est en train d'établir des lois de régulation interne.
I mentioned in my testimony that the Congolese government is in the process of passing some of these laws.
Il est sûr que la stabilité du Congo dépend de plusieurs facteurs.
It is certain that stability in the Congo depends on many factors,
Mais l'exploitation illégale des ressources devient un facteur majeur.
but the illegal exploitation of resources is a major factor.
Et c'est pour ça que l'Église demande à ce que la communauté internationale renforce les régulations extérieures et intérieures pour contribuer à la stabilisation.
That's why the church asked the international community and the national leaders in the Congo to regularize these laws and to implement them.
Les tensions entre communautés, entre ethnies est superficielle. Elle est instrumentalisée par les problèmes économiques.
The tensions, the ethnic tensions that exist are manipulated, are instruments of this conflict and are fueled by the minerals in the mines.
I appreciate that testimony, and Mr. Lamar, I wanted to briefly get to you, and I don't know that I really have the time. My time has expired. But I am concerned, I guess, to the panel. My concern is whether it's out of the apparel and manufacturing, whether it's out of Tier 1 automotive suppliers that are in the 2nd District of Michigan, who are dealing with requirements in NAFTA that for them to go through a Tier 1, and we see it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to that process. They're looking at it being millions of dollars if they're having to go down 5 tiers, and I think the crux of the question is will this solve the conflict in the DRC? Will this solve the issues that we're dealing with in that northeastern corner of a very conflicted world? And obviously Rwanda and other areas that are in that area have seen violence for so long, and I hope that you understand that that's what the intent for me personally, and I believe the rest of this panel is, to look at how we are making sure that the problem is really truly solved and is not a veneer, I think, as Mr. Dizolele had talked about. So with that, my time has expired. Appreciate that. With that, the Chair recognizes Mr. Scott for 5 minutes.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening